Incredible redemption, quiet black man's touching transformation reveals racist cop's true deeds. Reggie stood in his small auto repair shop, hands covered in grease, a testament to his labor and dedication. The faint scent of oil and metal lingered in the air, blending with the gentle hum of light chatter from customers. Maplewood, a sleepy town that thrived on routine, felt warm and inviting, but beneath it lay a simmering tension that Reggie knew all too well. Day after day, he poured his heart into his work, fixing cars with precision, embodying the spirit of a man chasing the American dream. Yet every sunrise brought with it not just the tools of his trade, but the heavy burden of racial prejudice, shadowed by the harsh gaze of a few local law enforcement officers. As he swept the floor, memories of his beloved mother surfaced like fragile bubbles. The strong woman who raised him alone after the tragic loss of his father had filled their home with love, nurturing dreams bigger than the confines of their neighborhood. "You can be anything, Reggie," she'd say with a smile that lit up the dimmest corners of their lives. He could hear her powerful voice echoing, a soothing reminder of the faith she placed in him. Those words were carved into his soul, propelling him forward even in the face of adversity. But fierce and fiery love turned to unease. One instant would turn the tide. A false accusation from a few misguided cops emerged after an incident at the community center, sparking gossip like wildfire and setting the hearts of neighbors ablaze with uncertainty. Reggie felt the weight of judgment before the words even left their lips. It was the spark that ignited a quiet rage within him, forcing him to confront the very biases that had loomed over him like a specter. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." With a determined heart, Reggie chose to speak out, drawing strength from his memories, his mother's belief, and the powerful whispers of neighbors who stood quietly beside him. A town hall meeting became the stage for his defining moment. Standing in front of the gathered community, his voice trembled at first but grew stronger. "These men," he pointed to the officers, heart pounding, "have disgraced their badge and the trust you all place in law enforcement." Gasps echoed through the chamber, expressions changing from disbelief to anger. Yet, fear threatened to wrap around his mind. The thought of retaliation loomed, but the flicker of his spirit ignited. He shared the pain, his truth spilling like drops of rain on thirsty soil. The silence in the room felt almost tangible as he revealed the unfairness he'd endured, the invisible weight he carried and couldn't shake off alone. Yet, just as the tide of change began to swell, the past clashed with the present. A former childhood friend from the police force, standing against him just moments before, rose from his seat. The room held its breath. "Reggie's right," he said, voice steady, eyes shining with regret. "It's time we stand up together." Whispers of hope hung in the air. Would Maplewood finally rise to confront its hidden biases? Would Reggie see respect flourish from the seeds he planted today? As tension rode high, he understood that the road to justice was still fraught with obstacles, leaving the community trembling at the precipice of transformation, eagerly anticipating what would unfold next. Reggie could feel the weight of the room pressing down on him. People exchanged glances filled with a mix of disbelief and inspiration. He wasn't just a local mechanic now, he was a beacon of change. The air buzzed with a newfound energy, almost electric, as whispers of solidarity began to ripple around the hall. His heart raced, but among the threat of fear came an undeniable flicker of hope. Nothing would happen overnight, but today was the start of something bigger. "We need to work together," Reggie continued, his voice unwavering now. "This isn't just about me. It's about all of us. We deserve better, and together we can make this town a place where everyone feels safe." The deputy's face twisted with concern, a mix of regret and stubborn acceptance. "Reggie, making changes isn't as easy as just wishing for them," he replied cautiously, but there was a tremor of uncertainty in his voice. People are set in their ways. Then let us change those ways. Reggie shot back, his enthusiasm spilling over. Let us be the change we want to see. How many of us have stories? How many have been treated unfairly because of our skin? We can't hide behind fear any longer. It's time to rise. The crowd began to murmur as more people stood to share their own stories. A mother spoke of being treated with suspicion in front of her children. A young man shared his encounter with local officers that left him rattled, feeling less than human. One by one, voices found the courage to join Reggie's. The room transformed from a somber gathering into a gathering of warriors, ready to risk their comfort for the sake of justice. He could see it in their eyes, the determination to stand tall against prejudice. Each story layered on the last, building a tapestry of shared experiences, binding them closer together. And as Reggie listened, an overwhelming sense of unity washed over him. Maplewood had always felt small, but now it carried the weight of a collective heartbeat, strong and fervent. But deep down, doubt still lingered in Reggie's mind. Would it be enough? Would the officers hear their cries, or would they still turn a blind eye? The realities of a pose loomed close. There would undoubtedly be retaliation, backlash, and the quiet fear that came with challenging the status quo, but the glances exchanged in that room started to erase those fears. Today, they were no longer silent. As the meeting wrapped up, the air seemed to shift. People were shaking hands, patting backs, agreeing to form a committee, to gather more stories, to create a platform for dialogue. Reggie had sparked a fire. When he stepped outside the town hall, the evening sky greeted him with shades of orange and purple. The world felt brighter, more vibrant. Laughter trickled from the park nearby, children running freely, their voices piercing through the shadows of doubt that once clouded Reggie's heart. But deep within him, a new concern stirred. How would he protect this new spirit, this fragile hope, as the town moved forward? Would the officers retaliate against him? Would they try to silence the truth? Reggie clenched his fists, determination swelling within him. He wouldn't let fear win. They had already come this far. Just as he prepared to head home, a text notification buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from that childhood friend who spoke up during the meeting, a single line that sent chills down his spine: "Meet me at the diner. We need to talk about how to keep this momentum going, but be careful." What lay ahead felt like another challenge, yet a part of him yearned for this conversation. Facing the unknown was daunting, but he couldn't shake the feeling that it might just be the key to solidifying this movement he had ignited. Steeling himself, he headed toward the diner, ready to uncover what awaited him next. The lights of the diner flickered above as Reggie stepped inside, the familiar scent of coffee mingling with sizzling bacon wrapping around him like a warm embrace. He scanned the booths, searching for his friend, half expecting to see her face lit with excitement and determination. Instead, he found her sitting in the last booth, her expression tense and worried. "Reggie," she said, her voice low, almost hushed, as he slid into the seat across from her. "I'm glad you came. What is going on?" Reggie asked, trying to keep his own nervousness at bay. His heart raced as he absorbed her troubled gaze. "You said it was important." She nodded, glancing toward the door, as if she expected someone else to come in. "I overheard something at the meeting. Some of the officers don't like what you're doing. They talk about how to shut you down. It's not just words, Reggie, it's real threats." A cold chill settled in the pit of his stomach. "What kind of threats?" "I can't say for sure, but I heard them discussing what they could do to make sure this doesn't go any further," she whispered, her eyes wide. "They won't take it lightly. You have to be careful." Reggie leaned back, uncertainty flooding through him. The adrenaline from his speech had faded, replaced by a dawning sense of danger. "I wasn't trying to provoke anyone. I just wanted to help." "I thought I know," she interrupted gently, placing a hand on his. "But they see you as a threat to their power. And when people feel threatened, they fight back. It can get grim. A weight settled onto his chest, and the walls of the diner felt like they were closing in. The very community he sought to empower was now at risk of being torn apart by fear and intimidation. Just when he thought the tide was turning, he faced a wall built on hardened hearts and prejudice. "What can we do?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper, filled with desperation. "I can't let this end now. Look at the people who stood for us today. They're counting on change." She squeezed his hand, a flicker of hope creeping back into her eyes. "We find other people willing to stand, willing to join you. Strength in numbers. If we keep the momentum going, they won't be able to silence us all." Reggie nodded, slowly feeling the spark reignite within him, but fear still clung to him like a shroud. "You really think that's enough?" "Yes," she replied firmly. "But we need to act fast. We can't wait for the next meeting. We have to rally support now. People need to know they're not alone. We need to share more stories, get people talking. This starts in our homes, coffee shops, anywhere we can bring momentum." As they plotted their next steps, the diner's door swung open, and a gust of wind swept through, carrying with it the chilling sound of laughter even higher in pitch than the jovial clinking of forks and plates. Reggie's gaze fell on a group of officers entering together, their expressions purposefully blank, but the tension they exuded sent a shockwave through the air. Instinctively, he bit his lip, panic surfacing along with a wave of uncertainty. What now? He couldn't let fear dictate his choices, but this was a very real threat looming over everything he had just begun to build. Would they confront him? Would they realize he was plotting against them? "Reggie," his friend murmured, drawing him out of his thoughts. "Stay close. If they confront you." The officers, one with a cocky smirk, the other a rough look in his eye, moved toward their booth. Reggie's heart pounded harder. Would he stand tall in the face of intimidation or wither beneath their glare? As they approached, Reggie could almost hear his own heartbeat in his ears. The moment felt weighty with every breath he took. What would they say? Would this be the turning point, or the moment of truth that could alter everything he fought for? He took a deep breath and prepared himself for whatever was coming. The scene unfolded before him, and in that instant he understood this was just the beginning. Could he find the courage to face them head-on? The officers slid into the booth next to them, the faint jingle of badges clinking like little warning bells in Reggie's ear. Their laughter faded, leaving a thick silence hanging in the air. Reggie felt the weight of their presence like a physical force pressing down on him. He exchanged a quick glance with his friend, her eyes wide with worry, and he took a deep breath again, reminding himself of everything he stood for. "Enjoying the night?" the officer with the smirk asked, a taunting glint in his eye as he looked over at Reggie. Reggie swallowed hard but managed to nod, forcing a smile that felt utterly foreign. Behind that smile, anger boiled, tempered by fear. "Yeah, just meeting up with a friend." The second officer leaned closer, his voice dripping with mockery. "Looks like you've got quite a lot on your mind. All those big plans you've been sharing around town, it's quite the spectacle. I hope you're ready for what comes next." He fought the urge to clench his fists under the table. Reggie could feel the room tightening around him as if the air itself was thickening with unspoken threats. "I'm not afraid," Reggie finally said, his voice steadier than he felt. "Good," the first officer responded, leaning back with an amused expression, crossing his arms. "Courage is an admirable quality. But sometimes it's better to just keep your head down." Every nerve in Reggie fired up, ready to rise against their intimidation. "I'm not looking to cause trouble. I just want what's right for our community." "Right?" The second officer smirked, chuckling under his breath. "What's right means different things to different people. Don't forget that." As the officers continued their banter, Reggie felt his friend's hand tighten around his. She was silent, but he could see the tension in her face. He could sense her fear, her worry for him. But he didn't want to back down. Not now. The waitress came to refill their coffee, momentarily breaking the tension in the room. Reggie glanced around, noticing the other patrons stealing furtive glances in their direction. An uncomfortable murmur of conversation swelled in the diner, a mix of curiosity and apprehension. In that moment, something shifted in Reggie. This was bigger than him. Bigger than just the officers sitting across from him. It was about everyone in the diner who sat in silence. It was about his community finally feeling heard and seen. "Listen," he said, raising his voice slightly. The words poured out as if they had been trapped inside him, waiting for their moment to be unleashed. "I know you think you're powerful and untouchable. But power that comes from fear only lasts so long. People are waking up. They're not going to stay silent anymore." The officers exchanged glances, surprise flickering across their faces. The room froze, all eyes turning to their table. The moment hung heavily in the air. Reggie could feel his heart racing, adrenaline surging through him. He caught his friend's gaze, and the flicker of hope in her eyes reignited his resolve. "Enough," the second officer said, his expression darkening. "You don't want to find yourself crossing the wrong line." He could sense the room exhale, tension snapping like a tight cable suddenly released. Reggie held his gaze steady, fear slowly giving way to something deeper, a sense of purpose. He wasn't alone in this fight. Not anymore. Just then, the diner's door swung open again, and a group of familiar faces walked in, folks from the community he had been fighting for, the ones inspired by his words and courage. They spotted Reggie, murmurs bubbling up, smiles spreading like warmth through the chilly air. The officers shifted in their seats, discomfort rising around them like a tide. Reggie felt different now, buoyed up by the sight of people he cared for joining him in this. As more people approached, he realized something vital was stirring in the air around them. Was this the breaking point for them all? Could he truly unite the community he loved against the forces of fear and control? The group gathered around Reggie, their presence a swell of hope that pushed the tension back. Each face reflected their common struggle, a collective strength igniting the air between them. He felt their energy. It was electric. Reggie's friend squeezed his hand tighter, her eyes sparkling with the realization that they were not alone. They were a force now. With each person that arrived, whispers of courage spread among them, filling the diner like the aroma of fresh coffee. "Reggie." One man stepped forward, a broad smile breaking across his face. "We heard what you said. We're with you." The warmth of the greeting felt like a shield surrounding him. As more joined, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations erupted, murmurs of concern mingling with determination. They began to strategize, ideas bouncing from one person to the next, a chorus of shared dreams and collective actions. The officers seemed to shrink in their booth, their confidence slipping ever so slightly as they exchanged uneasy glances. Their power was finding cracks. It made Reggie smile. His heart raced, not from fear but from a thrill of possibility. "We need to be loud," he said, his voice climbing higher with enthusiasm. "Let us start right here. Let us show them we won't be silenced." "But what if they retaliate?" a woman in the crowd asked, her voice trembling slightly. The room grew quiet, the question hanging thick in the air. Reggie took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over him. "If we stay silent, they win. It's time to expose the truth. We have to show them that fear doesn't control us anymore." One man nodded vigorously. "I've seen my friends hurt because of this. It's wrong." His voice rang with sincerity, fueling the fire in the hearts gathered around. Reggie felt a surge of determination wash over him. It was terrifying to think about the consequences, but he remembered the feeling of belonging, the warmth of the community. It made the fear manageable. There was strength in numbers, and they were stronger together than they could ever be apart. The waitress returned, her brows furrowed in concern but eyes full of support. "You all okay?" she asked, glancing at the officers. "They've been acting strange for a while now." Reggie met her gaze, grounding himself in the resolve he felt with every heartbeat. "We're okay," he said confidently. "We're just planning a new chapter, one where our voices matter." The officers' laughter seemed more forced now, tense chuckles that couldn't reach their eyes. The table of patrons around them whispered amongst themselves, some standing taller as if buoyed by Reggie's words, supporting him without needing to utter a single sound. "Okay, then let us do this," someone called from the back. They all nodded, and Reggie could feel the foundation of change forming beneath them. Outside, the night had deepened, the sky painted in shades of dark indigo, but inside the diner, a light was slowly piercing the atmosphere. Reggie didn't just want to stir conversation anymore, he wanted action. "Let us take a stand. We'll converge at the town hall tomorrow evening. We'll make sure they hear us." Excitement bubbled up as people began to cheer. But beneath that cheer lay an unspoken anxiety, a question that echoed in each mind: what could happen when they faced those who had held their community in fear for so long? As the chatter continued, Reggie felt a tap on his shoulder. One of the officers had stood up. "You're treading dangerous waters," he said, his voice low but filled with malice. Reggie turned slowly, eyes blazing. "You don't scare me," he declared. "You've had your day. Now it's time for us." The officer's face darkened, but Reggie couldn't back down. Not now. Not ever. What awaited them at town hall? Would they finally take the power back, or was this merely the spark before the storm? The diner buzzed with a mix of tension and excitement. Reggie's heart pounded as he locked eyes with the officer, the once imposing figure now just a man in a uniform steeped in arrogance. He sensed the turning tide, the fear that loomed over them was dissipating like fog under a rising sun. This was their moment, a critical juncture where they could reclaim their voices. "Let them come!" Someone shouted from the back, fists raised in defiance. It was a small gesture, but it ignited gasps and cheers, fueling the fire of rebellion that had begun to kindle in each person present. Reggie could feel the communal spirit, it enveloped them all, binding their hopes into a solid chain. "We will be heard," exclaimed the woman who had questioned retaliation earlier. Her voice was steadier now, shining with newfound conviction. The crowd responded with nods and murmurs of agreement. Reggie took a moment to appreciate the profound shift in the room. What had started as a small gathering now thrummed with the energy of dozens, maybe even hundreds. He stepped onto a booth to elevate himself above the chatter, his hands raised to call for calm. "Listen up. We go to town hall armed with our stories. Each one of us carries a piece of truth they can't ignore." A senior man shouted back, "We've been silenced for too long. They need to know we exist." His arms waved rhythmically as if directing an orchestra. The crowd rippled with support, laughter echoing off the diner walls, their collective courage swelling. Yet still, an undercurrent of dread danced in the shadows, voiced quietly amidst the exuberance. What if it all fell apart? What if their courage only drew more ire? But this fear felt different now, it was backed by a sense of unity that somehow made it manageable. The waitress returned, placing a large pot of coffee on the table, a strategic move to keep the group's energy high. "You folks got this," she said with a wink, her belief kindling hope. Her familiar warmth reminded them all of the stake they had in this fight, not just for themselves but for everyone in their community shaken by fear and oppression. "Reggie, what if they retaliate?" Another voice called, this time softer, almost pleading. It was Tom, an old friend with a face lined by years of hard work. Reggie cleared his throat, searching for words that would cut through the air thick with anxiety. "Tom, listen, we've let fear dictate our lives for too long. This is our chance to break free. They need to see us united. They'll realize we are not just shadows in their patrol cars." A wave of agreement swept through the crowd, solidifying their shared purpose. Outside, the wind whistled, as if nature was echoing their resolve. "Okay, tomorrow it is. Town hall at 6. Reggie shouted, and the unified roar that followed sent vibrations through the diner. But just as the cheer reached its peak, the door swung open, the clank of metal echoing starkly. Another group stepped inside this time. It was more officers. Their presence pulled the air taut, eyes narrowing, intent and menacing. Tension instantly filled the space, transforming cheers into whispers. The officer who had confronted Reggie earlier led the charge forward, his gaze icy. "You really think this will change anything?" he drawled, a sly smirk curling at the corners of his mouth. Reggie's hands trembled, uncertainty creeping in, but the fire within him flared brighter. "It's going to change everything." The officer shrugged, still smiling. "Good luck with that." As they exited, a deep silence fell like a shroud over the diner. Reggie could feel every heart beating, with anxiety spiking through the air. This wasn't just a march. It was charging into the unknown. Could they really stand together? Would this pivotal stand bring about the change they yearned for? Deep in thought, his mind raced ahead to the meeting. Would they each find the courage to share their stories? Would tomorrow reveal the depths of their resolve or the shadows of doubt? As Reggie contemplated what lay ahead, a gentle hand grasped his shoulder. It was his friend. Her voice soothing but firm. "We've come this far, Reggie. It's our time." Their eyes met, and he found comfort in her strength. Tomorrow wasn't just another day, it felt monumental. But in the back of his mind, an unsettling question lingered: were they truly ready for what awaited them? The night stretched on, the diner dimly lit, its usual buzz replaced by a heavy silence. Reggie stood at the center, still grappling with the brutal reality of their confrontation. Each face was a mixture of hope and fear, shadows flickering across brows as they all shared this space filled with uncertainty. "Reggie," Tom spoke again, his voice breaking through the thickness, "do you really think everyone will show up?" There was worry etched on his forehead. "I have to believe they will. We've endured too much for too long." A sense of urgency hung in the air. Everyone knew the stakes. It wasn't just about town hall, it was about dignity and respect. Each person carried their own pain, their own stories of loss and injustice. The waitress resumed her rounds, pouring coffee into mugs, eyes sweeping the diner. Every drop of that liquid was a tether to normalcy, a small comfort in the face of the turmoil brewing outside. As people began whispering their fears and plans, Reggie made eye contact with a younger man sitting at the back, his fingers tapping anxiously on the table. "You all right?" Reggie asked, moving closer. "Yeah, just I don't know. What if they come down hard on us? What if we're just opening ourselves up for more hurt?" Reggie nodded, understanding the depth of that fear. Hiding doesn't protect us, it just keeps us locked in a prison of silence. "We're taking a stand, remember?" The young man looked up, drawing strength from Reggie's words, a flicker of hope shining in his eyes. "Together, we can face whatever comes." Just then, the door swung open again, this time a small group of supporters entered. They must have heard about the rally at the diner. A cheer ran through the room, slowly transforming the heavy atmosphere as more people filled the seats, a new wave of unity washing over them. "Did you see that?" someone exclaimed. "They know what we're trying to do." Reggie stepped back onto the booth. "This is just the beginning. Each of you has a voice. Tomorrow, we show up, not just for ourselves, but for our community. We have to push back against this fear." The words flowed out of him, the energy palpable. The diner began to resonate with their shared excitement, laughter weaving into the conversations, igniting a sense of purpose that felt transcendent. In this light, they felt stronger. Reggie's heart swelled. Could he really lead them through this storm? His mind raced through tomorrow's possibilities. Suddenly, a sharp ring sliced the moment, his phone buzzing insistently in his pocket. He reached for it, glancing at the screen. It was an unknown number. Anxiety pricked at his gut. "Hey, I need to take this," he said, moving to a quiet corner. He answered, voice shaky, "Hello? Reggie?" A tense voice came through, recognizable yet unexpected. "It's Officer Daniels. I think you should hear what's coming your way." His breath caught. What did that mean? Were they already preparing to counter their planned gathering? "Listen carefully," the officer continued, tone serious. "There's something you need to know. It might put you in danger tomorrow." Reggie's heart raced even faster. What could be worse than the threats they already faced? "Are you there?" Daniels pressed. "Yes, but I need to know, what are you talking about?" Another siren of apprehension tore through him. Were they truly ready for what lay ahead, especially if it involved danger or betrayal from those sworn to protect? The line went dead, leaving him with more questions than answers. He stepped back to the group, pulse pounding, looking around at their hopeful faces. How would he tell them what this meant? Could he shield them from the dark clouds gathering on the horizon? As doubt seeped in, Reggie knew he had one choice left. "I have to find out what's happening," he murmured under his breath. But did he have the strength to lead them into the storm? And what secrets lurked behind tomorrow's dawn? The diner hummed back to life as people exchanged stories of strength and resilience around Reggie. But an undercurrent of anxiety tugged at him, gnawing at the edges of his thoughts. The warmth of their camaraderie felt fragile, like ice in the sun. As chairs scraped and fingers tapped mugs, he wrestled with how to handle the dark warning Officer Daniels had left him with. "Reggie," Tom's voice cut through his haze, concern lacing the edges. "You look pale. What did the officer say?" Reggie swallowed hard. "Just a warning," he replied, delaying the truth. "We're expecting some pushback tomorrow. We need to stay strong." Tom nodded, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed his trust. Reggie caught the eyes of those around him, a handful of hopeful faces mingled with a brewing storm. He could sense the fear, a shared shadow looming overhead that could crush their momentary joy. "Okay, everyone." He raised his hands, his voice breaking through the rising din. "I need your help. Let's come together and think about how we can prepare for tomorrow. We need a plan." The chatter faded to a murmur, eyes darting back to him. Uncertainty twisted in their expressions, but trust flickered just beneath the surface. They gathered closer, forming a protective circle, and Reggie felt something stirring within him, an instinctual urge to create clarity amidst chaos. As he laid out his thoughts, weaving a strategy for rallying supporters and standing firm against intimidation, he noted the younger man from earlier, still hunched at the back, his fingers still nervous on the table. Reggie paused. "Hey, you. What's your name?" "Jorge," he mumbled, shrinking back slightly. "Jorge, I can see the fear in your eyes. But you're not alone in this. We stand together, all of us. What do you think we should do to prepare?" Jorge's hesitation dissolved into surprise. His gaze shifted, considering what could be. "Maybe we can bring signs. And a list of what we want to say." "Yes." Reggie cheered, energized by Jorge's tentative suggestion. "That's exactly what we need. Each voice counts, and your ideas matter. We need to remind everyone why we're fighting." Slowly, a lively discussion grew louder, with ideas bouncing between tables and excitement igniting sparks in their hearts. Reggie felt a sense of unity rise, momentarily overshadowing the dread that had lingered since that phone call. But as the enthusiasm enveloped them, that nagging dread nudged back into focus. He hadn't forgotten about Officer Daniels' warning. What kind of danger were they truly stepping into? Anxiety simmered beneath his calm facade. Then came another interruption. The door swung wide, flooding the diner with cold air. The sun had begun to rise, backlighting a figure dressed in dark leather. Instantly, silence fell, eyes drawn to the newcomer. Reggie's heartbeat quickened. The man stepped inside, flanked by two sharply dressed officers. The air turned thick with tension, a palpable unease settling into the crowd like lead. "What do they want?" a voice whispered, laced with fear. Reggie couldn't tell whether this was an early morning visit of goodwill or a threat. The officer's presence echoed the warning he had received like looming shadows, reminding him of the danger that might unravel. "We need to stay grounded," Reggie shouted, bracing himself. "Whatever happens, we stick together." But as the officers approached, his heart sank. Would they be confronting more than just words tomorrow? Would there be consequences, or was this merely a reconnaissance mission to intimidate? "Everyone, ready yourselves," Reggie said, steeling his voice. "We're about to find out just how strong we really are." And as the officers stopped mere feet away, their expressions unreadable, he understood tomorrow's storm was already here. Would they silence the gathering strength of the people, or ignite a fire that could change everything? The atmosphere in the diner grew heavier as the officers approached. Reggie felt a bead of sweat trickle down his back, mingling with the unease in his stomach. He could feel the pulse of fear thrumming through the crowd, an unspoken language of dread and defiance. The man in leather stepped forward, his eyes narrowing as they scanned the room. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice smooth but firm. "We received reports of unrest around here. We are just looking into the situation." The word unrest hung in the air, a virulent cloud. Reggie could see faces tightening, jaws clenching. The diner, once a vibrant hub of hope and solution, now felt more like a stage for confrontation. "Please, just let us be," a woman called from the back. She had a toddler perched on her hip, a picture of innocence in a rising storm. "We only want to speak our minds." "Is that how you describe it? Speaking your mind?" The officer replied, taking a step closer, his eyes narrowing like two thin slits. Reggie's heart raced. This was it. This was the moment they had feared. "Listen," Reggie stepped forward, light spilling from his resolve, fierce and bright. "We're here to advocate for our community. We are not causing trouble, we're here to come together." The words felt like a lifeline thrown into stormy waters, trembling yet determined. "Why don't we take this outside?" the officer suggested, a gleam of confrontation sparking in his eyes. The two officers flanking him moved slightly, muscles taut, waiting for Reggie's response. Something shifted in the diner. Reggie felt a wave of solidarity wash over him as people began to rise from their seats, standing shoulder to shoulder. "We are not afraid," someone shouted, and the words echoed around the room like a chant, building rhythm and strength. "Let us show them," Tom whispered, determination etched on his face. The tension morphed into a collective action. The murmurs flowed into one voice. "Together!" Reggie roared, fists clenched. "We face this as one." As if on cue, signs were lifted. Words scrawled in colorful hues became shields against intimidation. "Justice!" cried a voice from the back. "Freedom!" shouted another. The tempo quickened as they began to chant, creating a thundering sound that filled the diner's walls, drowning out the frigid seriousness of the officer's presence. The lead officer raised a hand. "Disperse now, or there will be consequences." Reggie stepped forward, the pain of history echoing in his bones. "Consequences? Or accountability? We deserve the right to speak without fear." The tension was electric, an unyielding push and pull. Eyes met eyes, hearts raced, and the power of their unified stand coursed through the space. "No!" came the shout from the crowd, lifting higher. "We will not be silenced." With the din of united voices, Reggie sensed the cold air from outside creeping into the merging warmth of hope and resistance. The officers seemed to falter, taken aback by their growing strength. Maybe, just maybe, courage was stronger than intimidation. But in the midst of this swelling hope, uncertainty still dashed through Reggie's mind. What would it take for them to see? Would the officers back down, or was this just a beginning of something darker? As the chants rose, the lead officer's expression hardened. "You've been warned." He turned, signaling to his companions. "Don't let them walk away. Stand firm. shouted someone, and that command hung thick in the air, growing heavier. The moment felt tenuous, an avalanche waiting to happen. Would this stand solidify their resolve or lead to chaos that spiraled out beyond their grasp? And before anyone could breathe, the door swung open again, revealing a figure silhouetted in the morning light. Who was stepping into this chaotic moment, and how would it shift the tide for the community already teetering on the edge of change? The door swung wide, and in stepped a woman, a powerful figure, her presence commanding immediate attention. It was Mayor Thompson, seen less often these days but remembered fondly by many as a champion of community values. The din fell silent, and she stood there, framed by the bright morning light spilling from behind her. "Stop!" she called out, her voice firm, cutting through the tension like a knife. The officers froze, clearly taken aback. Reggie's heart raced. Could this be the moment they'd been waiting for? The light of hope flickered brightly in his chest, feeding off the looks of relief on his neighbors' faces. "What is going on here?" Mayor Thompson continued, stepping inside confidently, her eyes scanning the room, locking onto Reggie's. He could see the understanding in her gaze. It was as if she knew just how deeply the community had been wounded by the officers' actions and the cloud of fear that had loomed over them. "We're here to demand respect, and we're not going to be silenced anymore," Reggie replied, his voice rallying spirit as he faced her and the officers alike. The officers exchanged nervous glances, their bravado faltering under the mayor's unyielding presence. "I've heard too much talk about unrest in this town," she began, her voice steady like a heartbeat. "And I refuse to sit back while any group tries to repress others' voices." The crowd erupted in murmurs of approval, the energy shifting once more, becoming a living, breathing force. Reggie saw the determination sparkling back to life in his neighbor's eyes, igniting a sense of unity that made them all stand taller. "We just want to make our community a safer place for everyone," he said, confidence surging. "If we can't speak up without fear, then how can we ever build that safety?" Mayor Thompson nodded, her expression grim yet supportive. "You have every right to be here, to express your truths. I will not ignore the voices that have been stifled. It's time to hold everyone accountable." A murmur of disbelief rippled through the crowd, and hope bloomed brighter. Someone in the back shouted, "She means it." Reggie's pulse quickened, knowing that with the mayor's endorsement, they had a chance to make a real change. The lead officer shifted uncomfortably under the intensity of the moment, words escaping him for a brief second. Mayor Thompson stepped closer, interposing herself between them and the growing crowd. "If anyone is crossing lines here, it's police officers who abuse their power. We need to communicate constructively, not with threats." With the mayor's words, the officers began to falter. The crowd built on their momentum. "Let us gather tomorrow at the town hall." Reggie led, urging them to join him. "Bring your stories, your voices. Let us make sure they hear us." Relief flooded through the diner, and people cheered, revved up with renewed energy. Reggie felt light, free like the weight of the world had finally been lifted. "But let us be smart," the mayor added, her tone now measured. "Stay organized, we don't want this to devolve into chaos. Together, we can lay out a plan without putting anyone in unnecessary danger." As the room buzzed with conversations and laughter, Reggie felt something shift inside him. Fear faded away, and all that remained was the fierce determination to protect the movement. "Right!" he exclaimed, his heart pounding in sync with the community. "We'll make handmade signs, meet up at 6, and unite as one." The crowd erupted, voices raised, laughter spilling over the tension from moments before. People pulled out phones and began to share the news with friends, families, and neighbors who could join their cause. "Let us make tomorrow a celebration of our voices. A demonstration not just for us, but for our children, for everyone who has felt the weight of this oppression," Reggie called out. The officers finally stood back, visibly uncomfortable as the tide turned in favor of camaraderie. They hadn't anticipated this unity, and as the crowd surged with hope, it became clear that change was what Maplewood needed most. With the sun climbing higher, the The diner felt like a sanctuary, a place of rebirth. Tomorrow would bring challenges, but today had rewritten the script. They had faced fears and transformed them into courage. And as the laughter bubbled and spirits lifted, Reggie felt a surge of gratitude. There was real magic in numbers, in community, and they could take back control together. Tomorrow wasn't just a meeting, it was the start of a movement. And as Reggie stepped closer to that edge, he knew he was no longer just a man with a mechanic's toolbox, he was a hammer against oppression, forging a new reality one strike at a time. With this dawn, they stepped into a future brimming with possibility. But for the channel, this is where your transformation must continue. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that could inspire your own journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure more stories like Reggie's reach those who need to hear them. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending, your voice matters. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Remember, this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. We are stronger together.